One, and we are recording episode 589 with Dr. Stephen Hatfill. And as I just told him, the very expensive Sony camera has decided to make me fluorescent blue, so I look like Avatar. So we're not using that one. So thumbs down, Sony, and shout out Apple for having a camera that works. But as you can see over your right shoulder, everyone watching, is we're finally doing an episode on your book, 3 Seconds Until Midnight, which, if I could give a 2-sentence review or a 1-sentence review, if you wrote it after the pandemic, it would be the biggest grift for money ever. The fact that you wrote it before the pandemic makes it prophetic. So it's, yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Please introduce yourself for all the new listeners.
I'm Steve Hatfill. I'm a medical doctor and a virologist.
And
Fellowships at Oxford, National Institutes of Health, USAMRIID at Fort Detrick, where I worked on Ebola and Marburg viruses under BSL-4, and monkeypox under BSL-3, and camelpox, and a bunch of other poxes.
and you were, sorry, I'm messing with my microphone. And I believe you were during the pandemic, you spent time in the White House.
Yeah, I was called in on 3rd of February 2020 to the executive office of the president, where I battled Fauci until the 2021 transition.
That
and the insanity that came out of the COVID-19 task force.
The suppression of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and now, as of I think yesterday, ever since it's kind of become clear that aspirin helps. I don't know if you saw the kind of all at the same time, all the articles coming out saying new study shows aspirin shouldn't be used for heart attack prevention. But we've beat this dead horse several times on past episodes. I want to talk about your book.
Yeah.
It is so much of it is over my head because I'm not a medical doctor like yourself or a virologist, but
well, you could read it.
Yeah, I did. And it
wasn't written to be over your head.
No. I mean, I should say, let me reword it. As a millennial, that's what I mean. So let me. It was written very well. It is for the layman. It's not a scientific paper. It's not any of that. For a millennial, it's, of course, I'm going to bitch and complain, but the amount of accuracy, right? Early on, it's, we're due for a pandemic. It's like, yeah, right, anyone could say that. But as you hone in to the supply lines, the like the push packs, and then where you really cracked it out of the park was probably in the last 10% of the book. And it was media, it was vaccine questioners and the media who could control the narrative if and only if their trust with the public was impeccable. And if they made any misstep, unless they owned it immediately, that this could boggle the thing even further. And that's what I mean by, if someone had written this after the pandemic, it'd be like, well, no shit, that would happen. But you wrote it before, which is just, I mean, talk about, right? Like the PSAs, like how you'd have to have like celebrities and athletes talking about it. And there'd be people, there'd be conspiracies running around that could get mistaken for truth, misinformation. I mean, to the point where, like, I'm almost questioning, is there a bigger question here? And it's like, do you have access to a time machine? And that's how you wrote this.
It's called past behavior.
That's brilliant.
Health professionals that are supposed to be in charge of things. Look back no farther than the 2014 Ebola crisis. We had spent, by that time, they acknowledged $70 billion on biological defense, both BW attacks and pandemics. And it's more closer, in my calculations, to 120 billion over the last decade. And you couldn't handle 11 Ebola patients without big drama. It's ridiculous. Where did all that money go? I'm still wondering that.
Do you think it was
Um,
do you think it was embezzled, or you think it's just government incompetence?
I think it's government incompetence. You know, pandemics since 1918, um, the U.S., that was sort of our last really big, serious pandemic. We've had 4 influenza pandemics since then for the flu. That we managed to scrape through those, but we never had a unified national pandemic plan. They tried in the early 70s when the swine flu thing came out, and a couple soldiers had died, I think, at Fort Dix, and it was found to be a um, mixture of pig and avian viruses. And there was this mass vaccination program that went out. Um, about 600 people caught Guillain-Barré syndrome from the vaccine, which was a paralyzing condition, and they shut it down. I think it was about 600. Um, they had tried after that to get a national plan, and you couldn't get the different players to work under the executive branch of the government. Health and Human Services, um, housing, urban development, transportation, all these cabinet levels couldn't seem to agree. And it just turned into a massive fight and they gave up. 2005, um, this whole question of emerging infectious diseases. So, around about the mid 90s, we started getting a about one new infectious disease that we'd never seen before as scientists. One a year. Um, Marburg virus, Ebola, those that occurred, the old green monkey fever in the mid 70s. But by 1995, we were seeing a whole plethora of new infectious agents that were jumping from animals into humans. And some very smart people, Stephen Morse and some other really, really cognizant scientists started working on this. And it was evident by 1995 that the human race had crossed some sort of tipping point. If you look at the number of new influenza strains that were suddenly appearing, you had about 4 since 1918, and then suddenly a whole rash of new ones. So clearly something was happening in the world. And the most common thing is expansion of the human race into areas where they have their own viral ecology amongst the animals. Uh, Diseases that were once hidden in the jungles or the deep forests of certain parts of the world, humans were now coming in contact with these. HIV, HIV started around World War One.
Really?
It just, yeah, yeah, in the Cameroons, they've traced it back to the monkeys.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and as the disease got into Kinshasa, well, whatever it was called back then, it got established in Africa. And when the Tanzania and Ugandan war occurred, people bombshelled out of the area. And when they did that, they took the virus with them. It was taking years to kill you. And with all these human targets, the trucking routes, the north-south trucking routes, don't get your hopes up. A lot of these are dirt roads with huge potholes, and it takes like 2 weeks in Zaire to go 600 miles. I think an ox wagon would be quicker. But the virus got into large scale African populations. and it got nastier. And with modern air travel and global interconnectivity, it had spread around the world before anyone had noticed. I think the French, the Zaire ambassador, it's now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but I think the ambassador for there carried it to France, so it got into Europe. Haitians were over there working under contract under Mobutu Sese Seko, who was the prime minister, the leader of the country at the time. And they returned to Haiti carrying the virus with them. And it got into the intravenous drug users in the United States. That's sort of the projection. That's how this popped up. But this was a chronic disease, and it took a while to recognize it. And it took really about 6 years to even start to understand it. Now we have effective medications that can keep it under control for a lifetime, multi-drug therapies. In the background of that was a whole plethora of other things no one had ever heard of before. SARS in 2003, a bunch of bat viruses that had jumped, other bat viruses that had jumped. A go-to virus in Kansas, tick-borne. It's only caused about 3 deaths so far, but we didn't even know there were go-to viruses in the United States. This is an Asian thing. And with modern air travel, I was in a wet market a few years ago in Malaysia, where they have all the live animals. And Asian culture is very sort of strict even today, and they like their food fresh. So one of the family members will go to the wet market, and the frogs are all in a jar, and the chickens are all there, and they'll whack the chicken right in front of you, and you take it home and you eat it the same day. Well, there's a lot of species in there, and they're all mixing, and they're all crammed, combined together. And of course, any viruses are going to jump. And RNA viruses, in particular, are pretty good at jumping. And they may be adapted to one species of mammal, a bat or something else. And to get to humans is kind of a big jump. Body temperatures are different, immune systems are different. But if we see the same virus in 2 different species of mammal, sort of a bat and then a civet cat, which is actually a mongoose type of critter, this tends to have potential to make another jump into humans, or bats into horses, like for the Hendra virus, or pigs, these type of things. And this was cropping up everywhere. If I remember right, 2015 was particularly bad. There's about 12 new emerging diseases that have popped out. Most of these, when they pop out, it's poorly person-to-person transmitted. And it's a few cases, like in a family or something. It's recognized as being odd, a cluster of infections. And the people are isolated, and, it's jumped, but it hasn't adapted to the humans yet. And then the first SARS virus in 2003 was like that. It had jumped from bats to civet cats to humans. And the humans did very poorly with the infection, but China it had broken out in China, and they had failed to follow international health regulations and report the outbreak of a new potentially pandemic disease. And it had spread to Montreal and around the world by the time they were essentially forced by circumstances to report it. So with air travel, I was in this wet market, and 24 hours later, I was in John F. Kennedy Airport. And you start thinking back about it, I could have picked up anything and brought it in unknowingly. So all these things have combined to make this concept of emerging infectious disease very, very significant and a real risk to everyone on the planet. So I became quite interested in this around the time I was at Fort Detrick. And I'd been in Africa a number of years. We'd had a hemorrhagic fever case. I'd run into two. A Congo Crimean case and hemorrhagic fever. And another one that to this day, I don't know what it was. We took it into Bob Swanepoel, who runs the BSL-4 lab in Johannesburg. We'd run the sample up personally. We called in our internal medicine people, and nobody could quite figure out what it was. And Bob got a hold of it. He was one of my lecturers in virology when I was in medical school. And the antibodies showed Ebola, but it was like strange staining pattern. So we didn't call it that. Then to this day, we don't know what it was. And I really got interested. I was going to work at Sandringham in the lab, and I was scheduled to move there. The government put a wage and price freeze in place. So I went back and did a couple other master's degrees and eventually medical specialty and came back to the United States. But the concept that this is out there never left me. And it really got brought home during the 2014 Ebola outbreak. And I was called over to Africa, to Kenya. And you would think that's the home of the Marburg virus. You would think that they would have a hemorrhagic fever response team. I mean, even Zimbabwe has one of those, or had. I don't know the status now. But they didn't. And a patient had arrived over from East Africa and collapsed in the airport. And I guess the attending doctors just like ran away. I don't know. But I was called over there to help organize a rapid response team. And the doctors I ran into there were like some of the best I've ever seen. Stephen and Ngombe, really, really on the ball. And we trained a team of doctors that would be able to go into the villages, look for cases, should it get started, Marburg, Ebola, any of the new things. And ran exercises and mock drills and how to safely enter. You didn't have the spacesuits there, but Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, had shown that in open air, you could manage these patients under strict BSL-3 conditions with decontamination and this and that. Didn't change it from being a biosafety level 4 sort of spacesuit needing infection, but you could handle a large number of patients, although a number of doctors did get sick and nurses and died in East Africa. But they had a team, and then apparently they're still in use today, and they drill and they're ready for it. So it came to the question of 2005, George Bush had established he'd read a book on the Great Influenza Pandemic. There's a couple of them out there that are really noteworthy, written by historians. And we went through these books very carefully. And we sort of were talking 1998, 99. The Biological Weapon Improved Response Plan had been created. And how would we handle a terrorist attack on a major metropolitan area? And it had been actually tested in scenarios called top-off exercises. And so 2005 plan came out. We had a look at this. And the original document was like nonsense. It was like reading a lawyer's brief on something. It really didn't amount to anything. And I thought, well, there must be a classified plan somewhere. So we started poking around. No. And about 6 months after that, some documents started to appear from Health and Human Services. And these had some meat on the bones. Some smart people had gotten together and they'd taken parts of the Biological Weapon Improved Response Plan and formulated really what was our first doctrine. They were working out of the National Security Council. Really smart people. And they got a lot of it right. And it was based on the 1918 outbreak. What could be done for the most number of people in the fastest amount of time? The concept of social isolation with the masks and quarantine centers and this type of thing. The neighborhood emergency help centers, which were a component of the BWIRP. Pop-up clinics. Go into these poor, disadvantaged neighborhoods early. Set up these pop-up clinics. Find an effective antiviral drug and start going door to door, knocking on doors at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you go in with your civic leaders. You don't go in dressed in like weird suits and stuff, spacesuits. You go in with the community leaders and you use universal precautions. If there's a prophylactic drug, obviously you're going to take that. And by this time, what's called a case definition is out there. And you try to diagnose potential early cases, as doctors have been doing for centuries, with signs and symptoms. And if you have a safe drug, you treat the whole family and you quarantine them at home. That was really the plan. Vaccines are nice, but with these rapidly mutating RNA viruses, vaccination is never a first-line measure. It's early drug treatment, and the earlier the better. It's like you're in the kitchen and you get the stove is on fire. You don't phone the fire department and wait for them to come in and put it out, right? You throw water on it. And you put it out yourself before it catches the curtains in the kitchen on fire completely. Well, we were fortunate when COVID-19 appeared in that the CDC itself had done some very early studies on SARS-1 with a drug called chloroquine that had shown efficacy in tissue culture. We got indications that the Chinese were making tons of it, suddenly. It's an old malaria drug. Why are they making tons of it? So we were following this very, very closely. And some papers in China appeared, and And South Korea was having a problem, showing that hydroxychloroquine was even safer and more effective. So by March, our first case had appeared in January, I think 19th, in Oregon, our first COVID case. It was clear that there were other cases. There had to be. And California, really, I'm sorry, isn't. They had some cool people there, very hard workers that recognized what was going on. But by and large, they had let, like New York City, they had let public health just slip to almost nothing. So the mega city regions, New York area and the LA area, were essentially unprepared. And but there was this 2005 plan. They ignored it for Ebola. And for some reason, Department of Homeland Defense and Department of Health and Human Services were jointly put in charge of the pandemic response for Ebola. So you got the cops and you got the doctors and scientists, and they're supposed to work together. What they did, they wasted no time in each developing their own doctrine. And I forget who was doing what now, but I think it was Department of Health and Human Services wanted to use drug treatment for prophylaxis, if you think you've been in contact with someone, as well as treatment. And Health and Human Services / CDC wanted to use it just for treatment. So it wasn't going to work because you need twice the number of doses in the national stockpile. You have to pre-buy this stuff. It takes time to make it, right?
Yeah, it's not just on paper. It's
no, you need bricks and mortars.
You need strategic stockpiles around the nation. You got to have. Are they in the packets? Are they cryogenic? But it's real.
Exactly.
It's real.
And you have to have memorandums of understanding. Mm-hmm. You've got to go out and into these disadvantaged areas, poor resource, and make contact with the community leaders ahead of time. Saying, like, if something does happen, here's the plan, here's what we need to do. So the national pandemic plan got divided. Here's what the federal government will do. We'll look for new drugs and vaccines. We'll handle the financial aspects of it. Other extraneous things to try to keep things together. The states were required. The strategic national stockpile will get stuff to you. The states were required to have a drop-off point. So, I've got 2 million doses of something coming. The plane's going to land, and it's going to drop off pallets, and then it's going to take off again. So the states were required to have warehousing available, should it be needed, transport, breaking all these pallets down, and distributing whatever item it is of medical equipment or drugs out to the local authorities, including the towns. The concept being, if a local authority can handle its own epidemic, then the country as a whole should be able to handle the pandemic. But it put a lot of stress on the local authorities, the brunt of it. And there was no way around that. Because what's good for Austin, Texas, and their local authorities, the little, communities, isn't going to be the same for Washington, D.C., isn't going to be the same for Orlando, Jacksonville, Florida.
Middle of Montana. Yeah, it's
middle of Montana. So the state and county health departments were required to mobilize the doctors and start getting this pre-planned. Okay, if this happens, we're going to use that elementary school as a neighborhood emergency health center. We're going
You,
to kids
you know,
go home for a while.
do you know what
Right?
to interrupt? Do you know what a lot of
Yeah.
this sounds like? And you
What?
mentioned it in your book, and I was so happy you did. Um, Continuity of Government, one of my favorite books, Raven Rock by Garrett Graff. I legitimately think it's one of the best books ever. I've had him on
It's a
here.
good book.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've listened to it so I harassed him enough that he finally came on my podcast last summer. It was like 900th email. He was like, "All right, I'll come on." But what we're talking about, right? So okay, so I don't need to explain it to you. You know what it is. It's not all it's not all on paper, right? It's brick and mortar. The bunkers are built. They have their generators. They have Faraday shields. They have their medications. They have their weapons. Do the steel doors close? Do they have MBC protection? Do they have potable water? Do they have
It's updated. It's
Yes.
kept
Yes. It's kept
ready to
going.
go.
They have skeleton crews. And when DEFCON
Yes.
goes lower, they are beefed up. And then
Yes.
not only that, what you're talking about, like the elementary schools, I mean, as far back as Eisenhower, I mean, there are places around, I'm sure every city, but specifically Washington, D.C., because when it's a matter of minutes before a warhead comes in, it's if you're here, you are landing, there's a helicopter landing on top of this insurance building. And if you're a mile that way, it's landing on this. A lot of times they used football fields. It's landing here.
It's
Yeah.
called a G1 evacuation.
Yes, they have it all. It's
I
all.
find it humorous that the last to go out are the congressmen and women.
Oh yeah, no, they were good. I love it. It is kind of
They're
a fun.
left.
It's kind of a funny slight, right? They were going to go to the
It
Greenbrier
is.
Hotel, which was like a
Yeah.
2-hour railroad. It's like, I thought you said we had 30 minutes heads up. Isn't 2 hours? They're like, yeah, you'll probably make it. Like, and they don't need you. Yeah,
Nancy Pelosi can run out and forget her shoes again.
yeah, it doesn't matter. You could tell they were just like, yeah, Congress is going to get vaporized. They didn't care. But in terms of like a pandemic plan, you do see how it's Eisenhower really started to point it out. He was like, where is it? What are we doing? Not just, well, I guess some of us know lines of succession, different code words, different bunkers, different levels of preparation. And so that's what you're talking about with this is like, it's not just here's a pallet. It's here's a pallet. We're going to be using this school. We'll be removing the kids. We're going to have doctors here, security here. Yeah.
I could never get FEMA interested in this. And if you go back through the literature and the documents, even the 2017 update to the National Pandemic Plan, you don't see FEMA mentioned anywhere because they're not trained to deal with an infectious disease environment, a biohazard environment, if you will. So anyway, so we had the plan, and it wasn't bad. And then the Obama administration occurred, and they fired everybody except one guy who hung on at the NSC. And Bolton fired him. Well, fire's a rush word. Don't need you. Thanks. Bye.
Sure.
And people interrupted their careers when you're called and go there.
Well, yeah.
I mean, everything takes second. Your country needs you. You have no choice. You have to go.
Everyone knows about. I'm so sorry for keep interrupting you, but everyone knows about like McNamara, right, leaving, was it Ford to go? But there's a lot more stories about that, specifically with the missile programs. I mean, guys leading that. It's actually weird. They're all kind of headed up car companies, but like the head of GM went and did this. The head of Chrysler headed up like the Titan 2, or not Titan, maybe Atlas, whatever it was, Minuteman, all the time though. And you're not making nearly as much money, but you're right. All these guys are like, country needs you. And then you come in and you're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. Sorry.
I got a watch that with the executive office seal.
Oh, nifty.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's fitting. Here's a timepiece, Steve. We're not gonna buy the batteries. Like, all right. asshole. Right? It's
Yeah. Well, anyway, um, so we had this plan, and brother, I went through it carefully, carefully. It took a couple years, and I had meetings with people, and I knew some of them from the past, and they were willing to talk, and you started seeing that what we're dealing with here is a strategic issue. It's strategic. It's city destroying. If you have this COVID-19, um, this was just a hint of how bad things could get. It had an extremely low mortality rate, and we know now that if we can treat you early with a number of drugs, um, it's a treatable condition. You don't die.
yeah.
The majority of people don't die, like 90% treatable.
Yeah.
And the people that do die have so many other things wrong with them. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. So it was perfect. The National Pandemic Plan was perfect for COVID-19 or any other respiratory RNA virus pandemic. You know, we were all worried about influenza, and the book is basically focused on influenza, but the RNA viruses are pretty much um, outside of a handful. Uh, every time they replicate, they make mistakes in copying their genetic material. And this is a survival advantage for
Hmm.
the viruses. So you might have SARS-CoV-2, but you've got a lot of little variations, mutations of that same virus in your body. And they're all vying to be who can replicate the fastest and most efficiently. And in a population, all this is going on, and the viruses decide themselves which are the fittest for that population. And that becomes the dominant strain.
Yeah.
By the time the first cases in China had been realized or admitted to, not realized, but admitted to, there were some 13 different variants out there. So when it hit the United States, we were expecting the trouble to be out on the West Coast. There's a lot of Chinese influence out there,
Hmm.
and especially Canada, Vancouver.
Hmm.
It even looks like Hong Kong now.
Yeah. Oh,
Tremendous
yeah. All the real
Chinese
estate
investments
holdings.
and this and that. Yeah. And nothing, I mean, they had cases, but sort of Oregon, those areas were. So you knew it had to be in the LA mega region. But the trouble appeared in New York. And then it, it just suddenly hit me. The United States had received the virus from two different directions. Italy is
Hmm.
well known for their clothing exports, and they got hammered like crazy. LA's not, I mean, LA seems to be coping, but Italy got hammered because of the garment trade, the back
Hmm.
and forth, Chinese, Italians, both. And that virus had undergone evolution into a different clade. We call them clades.
Hmm.
It wasn't the same as the original Wuhan. It had mutated enough and gotten more used to infecting people and better at it. And that's what came over to New York. Whereas the Wuhan strain sort of was the one initially that got into California. I think that's the easiest way to explain it.
Well, yeah. It's like it's the thing that started. Wuhan was blitzkrieg, but now
Yeah,
we're dealing with Hiroshima. It's like
Yeah,
it started the same, but
yeah,
it's not at all the same. You don't defend against tanks and nuclear weapons the same way.
yeah. What was really interesting, and the first recognized case in I think it was Portland, they were ready to try remdesivir. This was an experimental drug. They tried it a little bit during the Ebola outbreak in 2014. And suddenly, I mean, there was remdesivir. This guy had come in, a very responsible individual. He just traveled from Wuhan back to the area, the United States. And he was having a sore throat and fever. And I mean, when you get this thing, you know it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt something's cooking here. You feel,
I had it last August. Yeah.
yeah, there's no doubt in your mind this is not normal.
Just exhausted for 7 days.
Yeah. And he was an older than you, and very responsible. Went into an urgent care clinic, said he thought he had this, and apparently they did a test on him and said, yeah, it looks like this, and put a mask on him, and he developed shortness of breath. They admitted him to hospital, and boom, the team was there with the remdesivir, pumping it into him. It's got to be given intravenously. And this guy got better in a couple of days. The appetite was back, the fever was gone, and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, it it works if you're very early in the infection cycle when the virus is actively replicating. It doesn't work if you're in the hospital for a couple of days and you're on oxygen. Most of the viral replication has been done. Now you're fighting off the immune system responding to everything.
Yeah.
So the COVID-19 is really two diseases. It's an upper respiratory tract infection, and then it goes down into your lungs, and it goes to your other organs.
It's kind of like Smokey the Bear
Yeah,
and that 747, the Evergreen, the largest firefighting 740. I think it's the only one. But
yeah,
yeah, Smokey, you put some sand or dirt on the fire pit. Don't throw the cigarette into the woods.
yeah,
That's how you start it. Maybe have some fire breaks around the campground
exactly.
versus the entire California mountain range is on fire and you have 747s dropping red fire suppressant
Yeah,
surfactants. It's again,
same
it's
thing.
not yeah, it's too
You want to catch it
yeah,
right at the start.
because yeah, it's not the same treatment all the way through. It's not scalable. It's a different thing.
Yeah. Uh, so, what's important, I think, for all Americans to understand, um, what's that Rachel lady's name on MSNBC? Rachel Maddow, something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, she had a go at me a couple weeks ago, and the woman is just senseless. I believe she's been fired or going to spend more time with the family or something. Just completely senseless lady. We were panicking in February and trying to make arrangements for this thing to hit the United States. Small number of us realized that you've got one case here, you've got plenty,
Yeah.
and we don't know where. And they're probably in the incubation period. So there was this realization, um, hey, the drugs we need are all made in China. The Obama administration had allowed. I'm sorry to keep coming back. I, I don't care who's running the government.
No, yeah, sure. It's not a yeah.
There's you don't allow something like this. It's a strategic thing for the United States. You've got to make certain drugs on U.S. territory and keep quality control over them. And we had allowed these pharmaceutical companies basically just to do what they want. And China's going to need these same drugs. How long until they shut our supply off? So this was the first thing we were working on. What are the essential drugs? We were able to assemble a small team of really smart people and get a list. Now, why the COVID-19 task force is not doing this, I have no idea. Because, I mean, I've never seen a collection like that before in my life. And these were all, I think, good people in their own area. But I don't really think they had a concept of pandemic. Most were from the HIV/AIDS era. And Dr. Redfield, I mean, is a very highly trained individual. But he gets dumped into the swamp that's the CDC's now become, with conflicts of interest everywhere, and the old boy network, and he's finding it difficult to get anything done. The test kits, I mean, were a travesty, absolute travesty. And the mandate that, oh, you had to take your sample and mail it back to the CDC because the tests weren't working. Well, how many days are you going to lose?
Yeah.
And seriously, once you start shortness of breath, and if you've got comorbidities and you're older, you got about 3 days till you're on the ventilator.
Yeah. You're going over the edge of the waterfall.
You're I call it circling the drain.
Sure.
So, and these patients are infectious. The virus is still replicating out to about day 5, 6, and some patients even longer.
Mm-hmm.
So they're contaminating everyone around them. We don't have enough masks. Healthcare workers are coming down. So that was the second priority. The first was the drugs. And we, just before it went out, um, chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine got stuck on the list. And we found out we didn't have any. Like, we use it for rheumatoid arthritis. It's a very safe drug, by the way. The media have blood on their hands. Seriously, the media
10,000.
have helped kill 700,000 people.
Oh, as an aside, I say that all the time. We're watching it right now. Give it a while. We're living through the biggest story, I think, of the
It is.
21st century.
It is. And now you see suddenly the drug companies have had enough time to get outpatient treatment tablets out,
Yeah.
which don't appear to be that great. The Merck one I've had a look at some of the data. Right now it's a press release, but the drugs we had selected are superior in 333 studies. So now they're talking outpatient treatment, and Fauci's, oh yes, we need outpatient treatment. Well, Dr. Fauci, we had outpatient treatment. It was working. It was safe. But there was a program initiated by Janet Woodcock at the FDA, who's now temporary FDA commissioner, to get rid of these outpatient drugs. And Fauci follows along. He's got remdesivir. That seems to be all that he cares about, which eventually was found not to work, and it wasn't worth giving unless you can give it in outpatients. And how are you going to go door to door and give it IV over 5 days to outpatients? It's an in-hospital drug. And once it's past a certain level, all it is a toxic compound you're putting into your body. And it's the WHO's summary of it, not mine. And they recommended not using it anymore. It was, they called it no effect on mortality. Treating patients in hospital doesn't stop a pandemic. You have to get out into the communities. Vaccines, we only have a few that last your lifetime. And that's because of the nature of the viruses. Measles. You get your childhood measles shot, you're, you're not going to catch measles in your lifetime, pretty much. It takes about a century for that thing to start to get a little bit. It's 5 proteins that have to mutate all at the same time, randomly. And so the measles is lasting. Smallpox. It's a fairly stable virus. Smallpox will last for your lifetime. Mumps will last for 20 years, 25 years. Chickenpox, that'll last for a long time. These are viruses that mutate. They may have the same mutation rate, but the proteins that they need to get into the
Conserved.
cell are complicated. And you've got to have all the switches set just right to catch an infection. And the vaccine is blocking this. So the RNA viruses like COVID-19 virus is different. By the time you could even hope to vaccinate your population, the virus has mutated into something else.
Yeah, you're mailing out iPhone 3 chargers to everyone in the nation, but now we're at the
Yes,
iPhone 7.
yes,
It's
exactly.
yeah, it's like
And they don't work together.
no, not even
So
close.
this is what's happened. The vaccines that they're forcing into people now are for the A and B clades of the virus, which no longer exists, essentially. They've mutated into other forms than Delta. And now we find out that you can be fully vaccinated, but you can still catch Delta. And if you catch it, you have the same amount of virus in your upper airway and oral cavities that an unvaccinated person that catches it has. So you can infect other fully vaccinated patients as well. It's not the unvaccinated that are at risk, it's the other vaccinated. Having a natural COVID-19 infection your immune system, there's about 20 proteins, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's a big virus, a lot of different proteins. And your immune system will make an immune response to a great majority of all those proteins.
Yeah.
So when a new strain comes along, maybe it's a little better at getting into you or replicates faster or something. It's got a survival advantage over the previous ones and the immunity, but your body will recognize some of those other proteins.
And destroy
And you
it.
still get a little sick, but you make a broad immune response. The messenger RNA vaccines are against one protein only. And you're actually reprogramming, if you've been naturally infected and have an existing immunity, and they're forcing you to get a vaccine, you're reprogramming your good broad spectrum immunity, long lasting, into fixating just on that spike protein for a virus that no longer exists.
So it's like so that individual spike proteins like changing the iPhone charger, whereas natural immunity is like you have the iPhone charger, but you also have the iPhone case. And it also pairs with your Bluetooth headphones, and it has your fingerprint, and it's natural immunity is like you have all this stuff. So maybe you don't hit it with the charger, but my case still fits on it, and it still pairs to my headphones, and so it's your body. It's like, all right, we still know what it is.
That's a millennial analogy.
I know. Oh, well, we can go much farther back. You could. Oh, let's go World War II anti-aircraft. You got to know what the plane.
I still keep butt dialing people with this thing. I hate it.
It's. We'll use World War II. You got to know what a city looks like from multiple angles at different altitudes and know when to drop the bombs.
Exactly.
I got all the analogies. I got them all.
You're good. So you can see what a mess this has become.
Yeah.
You cannot vaccinate yourself out of a pandemic like this with this type of a virus. We can't do it with flu. Every year there's a new flu shot, right? If you're over 60, those don't really work. So, and then there's the point of if you are naturally immunized by catching COVID-19 and we give you the vaccines, when you get another strain of the virus, there's a very good chance you're going to have a worse time.
Really?
The vaccines reprogram your immune system, and um, it's diminishing your immunity. So we should have had no more than 3 waves of the virus. We're at the end of the 4th wave. Some scientists are saying, yeah, okay, that'll be the last one. We've got a strain developing in Uganda now that we know very little about. I don't expect anything from this new strain, but the Uganda is very heavily overpopulated, and in these sort of cases, it doesn't matter. This thing can back mutate just as easily as gaining new functions through mutation. So I personally don't think this is over yet. And even if it is, we got a failing grade. And it failed through all levels. Why we got on the path for vaccination to get us out of this instead of early use treatment. I wrote a couple papers on that. I think we've discussed it earlier on. No one seems to want to believe it, but I saw it. I saw the thing, and I saw the individuals involved. It was the wrong choice. And it still happened. The medical journals were involved. The Lancet article, the Surgisphere, it was all fraudulent data. But that was the final straw that broke the camel's back for hydroxychloroquine. It was fake. It was made up data published by the Lancet. And Richard Horton, the senior editor, was complaining that they didn't want to publish it, but they were forced to publish. Well, who's forcing you to publish it? You're the senior editor. It's a medical journal. Thousands and thousands of lives depend on what appears there. New England Journal of Medicine. I'm not making any accusations, but when the Ford study came out showing hydroxychloroquine dropped mortality 51% with treatment, as soon as you come in the emergency room, they were giving them hydroxychloroquine. As soon as they came in with shortness of breath, they were entering that second phase of the disease. 51% reduction in mortality. Nothing does that in medicine. That is a major, dramatic, exceptional answer and finding. New England Journal of Medicine refused to publish it. No, it'll be controversial. We don't want to publish it. And then I find out Janet Woodcock was on the editorial board. This was a lady that had to recuse herself when she was promoted to Operation Warp Speed for any vaccine decisions because of conflicts of interest. I assume we're talking financial conflicts of interest. She's now the temporary commissioner of the FDA. Dr. Fauci We saw the first study that came out of China. It didn't do anything, remdesivir, except it was really toxic to the kidneys. They were giving 10-day course. Why are you giving 10-day course of a toxic nucleoside analog when viral replication is over in about 4 or 5 days in a good immune person with a good immune system? You're flogging the dead horse. And then to sit on the couch at the White House and announce that, this is the new standard for treatment. No, not at all. So this couldn't have been screwed up anymore if you tried. And we've lost over 700,000 people, and we're still not sure how this is going to end. New York, mega region, de Blasio, the mayor, or New York City. The governor of New York City, he's gone now. It's just a shambles. Chickens running around with their heads cut off. Mike Tyson, the boxer, was right. And I want to get an engraved sign put above my desk that says, in the words of Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face.
Yep. We've got it all hashed out, and then it happens.
Yeah.
Right? Raven Rock and 9/11. What ended up happening, ended up flying around Air Force One.
And the comms didn't work.
And the comms didn't work.
And communications didn't work.
They were getting their news. They were getting their news from Fox and CNN.
Yeah.
like.
So, what the book goes into in the last part. And again, this is before 9/11. We try to show you all the things that could happen if we had a high mortality RNA respiratory virus pandemic. Something that was taking out 20, 30% of cases. How do you fix that? The local authorities did nothing. Some of them did. Some of them did. And some of the states had very good state pandemic plans. Some of them didn't have any until after the pandemic started, which is a little late. There's a lot of things that have to be fixed. No one thought that it would be this stirred up. But to think that people were sitting back doing nothing when this started is an absolute fallacy. From February onwards, people myself, were putting in 14, 15, 16-hour days. And then the FDA banned hydroxychloroquine. Not once did they admit that it was the virus itself attacking the heart, not the hydroxychloroquine. Thousands and thousands of patients. Now, we're still prescribing it off-label. Doctors are where I'm at the moment, and they're having continuing excellent results. There's no cardiac effects. Big studies, 11,000 patients. Wonderful. 70% effectiveness with no cardiac events. We've hooked people up to heart monitors, 24-hour, for a short 5-day course of hydroxychloroquine therapy. No change from the baseline when the ECG started. It works, but it was an excuse to ban the drug from outpatient use. Because if you have an effective outpatient treatment that's safe, then the vaccine has to go through the full multi-year.
Can't do the EUA.
You can't get the EUA.
It's going to go down. I keep saying it. It's going where you can't. Whoever said the quote, history never looks like history when you're living through it. It's only in hindsight when it kind of solidifies that you can see what it was.
Yep.
What we're living through right now is the trying to convince the American people that we need to go into Iraq because they have WMDs, and you
Yeah.
can't see it while you're
Same
there.
thing.
But now we look back and we go, all those lives for what? Right now, the banning of hydroxychloroquine, you can't say ivermectin on social media. You got to use different letters to spell it out. It is it's we are seeing the coordinated suppression of those things, and the direct result of that is 700,000 Americans dead. I don't know when it will come out,
Well,
but it's going to be the
we're gonna
biggest story.
we've got enough research now on ivermectin to show its safety profile and its efficacy. And you can give the two drugs together, hydroxy and ivermectin.
Yeah.
Hydroxy seems safe for pregnant women. Ivermectin, we're not sure. So best to leave them out of that. But um, June, July, second wave time frame, I had to endure um, phone calls from ERs and ICUs that couldn't get remdesivir. To tell you the truth, we didn't even know how to make it. It was all made in China. And they just took the patent and started making it and said, stuff you. And it took time to find chemists that could make it here. And I'm not sure where it was finally made. That's about my pay grade. But pleading with me in tears, where can we get hydroxychloroquine? And we had 62 million doses sitting in the National Strategic Stockpile. And no remdesivir, nothing. Because of a couple of idiots in the government at a high level position. Dr. Anthony Fauci, Dr. Janet Woodcock, Rick Bright, who eventually got fired by President Trump for insubordination, conspiring with Janet Woodcock to get an EUA instead of an investigational new drug authority for hydroxychloroquine. Some people helped us get 62 million doses. We have friends in the world still, other countries. And some of this was donated, a lot of it. And some of the active precursors were donated. The agreement was they didn't want this being sold on the market for profit, right? Fair enough. We don't want you making money. This is for a time of emergency. And we pledged, yeah, okay, we'll get an IND. And it'll come from, put it in the national stockpile, which is under control of Rick Bright at BARDA. And it'll go through that system. Will be sold on the market for rheumatoid arthritis or scleroderma or lupus or anything else, connective tissue disorders. And Janet Woodcock, Rick Bright was given the order. President, Secretary Azar, Dr. Cadlick at ASPR, 3 levels of command, get an IND. All he had to do, it was paperwork. That's all he had to do. Janet Woodcock phoned him the next day. This is in Rick Bright's own whistleblower complaint. He outs Janet Woodcock. I'm not doing it. It's a legal document. It's his formal whistleblower complaint. You can call it up on the internet, page 43. He's proud of the fact that he committed insubordination. And then he did the worst thing. When the EUA arrived, he went to the biased mainstream media and told them this is a terribly dangerous drug. People are going to die if they take this. Then you had the fake papers come out. the Brazilian study where they actually gave toxic lethal doses of chloroquine to patients that were already dying of cancer, HIV, everything else. And then the veterans study. Again, they picked the worst patients that were already dying of other conditions. They were circling the drain, and they gave them hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine, and they died. Sorry, hydroxychloroquine, and they died. They were going to die anyway. And then you've got Neil Cavuto on Fox Business News screaming, if you're brought into the hospital and they try to give you chloroquine, don't take it. You will die. It will kill you. All because President Trump had received a dose when his valet became ill. And he didn't catch it the first time around. And that's pretty close contact when you're valet, you're around him all the time. So, Mr. Cavuto, how many people did you kill? Or should I call him Dr. Cavuto now? Anyway, this is the stupidity that we had to watch for a year. And once hydroxychloroquine was banned, there was nothing further to do. We tried getting an EUA reinstated. We had more than sufficient evidence, and the FDA wouldn't even consider it. Stephen Hahn is a gifted doctor, 2 medical specialties, radiation therapy and oncology. Was the choice for FDA commissioner. He was following the doctors' chat groups. I know because his name was just in front of mine, of the doctors that were using hydroxychloroquine. In September 2020, he got on a radio program and said, yeah, I think hydroxychloroquine really does something. Well, why wouldn't you reinstate the EUA for the Ford group so they could do the Fauci study, randomized clinical trial? It wasn't necessary. Randomization is something you only need if the benefit is very, very small. With 51% improvement in mortality, you don't need randomization. In fact, you're intentionally killing patients if you don't give it to them. If you put them in a control group, you're killing them, some of them. Plus, it was backed by the Mount Sinai study and a large French study. This is early use hospital, not outpatient, early use hospital, showing 61%, 67%, I can't remember which, improvement in mortality with no cardiac events. Doctors are tired. You see 40 patients maybe in a day. Or you've been in theater on your feet all day long. Then you got ward rounds to do. Then you go home, you get a bite, play with the kids, talk to the wife, and go to sleep. Get up, repeat the same thing. Your chance to get news is very short. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you're lucky, you can take the weekend off and read your journals to try to keep up with your particular field. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or bullshit. Maybe once a month.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, no.
But here comes all the crappy papers that never should have made it into publication, never should have made it through peer review. And the little news blurbs of Neil Cavuto screaming frantically, this will kill you, don't take it. Well, there needs to be some liability associated with this.
Well, as well as censorship, though, like you said, you're doing all this. I do this podcast for a living. I get to read as much as I want. I probably listen to 10 plus hours a day of audiobooks.
Yeah.
You're doing everything you just said, or not medicine, you're a lawyer or whatever. And then you go and you search for something, and the news, you don't even know that what you're looking for is censored. You're just, every article about hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin or quercetin or vitamin D or or whatever is, I mean, that's what I got banned for, was talking to Dr. McCullough about quercetin and vitamin D and turmeric and zinc.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not even that, like, it's the little blurb you get. It's to quote Rumsfeld, right? It's the unknown unknowns. You don't know
Yeah.
what's being censored. You just assume this is America, freedom of speech, and yeah, go home, play with the kids, see the wife, see the dog, sack out, and then it's yeah, you don't have time to go through all of it. Dr. Hatfill, I got to use the restroom real quick. Please excuse me. I got to pee so bad. You can go too if you need to.
No, I don't have prostate issues.
Apparently I do. And is Dawn there?
No, Don's got prostate issues. We
Well,
don't
slow.
have.
Well, he always laughs at me for this shit. Well, I'll be back in 30 seconds. Dr. Hatfill, tell him where to get.
All right, buddy.
Tell him where to get your book.
My name is Walt Garrison, football rodeo star. I don't often get to relax. There's times when a man needs a bit of relaxing. That's why I choose Copenhagen. Little pinch between your cheek and gums. Real relaxing. I always wanted to do that.
Maybe it is prostate issues. Maybe I need to stop. Maybe I need to stop drinking 3 of these before.
Did you leave the camera on?
Oh yeah. No, I know. I'll cut it out.
No, because I did my Walt Garrison commercial.
Okay, good. Well then, yeah. No, I don't know what that is.
You're too young.
I am too young.
Walt Garrison was a football and a rodeo star.
Okay. I don't know.
Used to do the Copenhagen ad.
Well, maybe they'll advertise us now. Maybe they'll get on here now. What I was gonna say is real quick to go back when someone like Neil Cavuto, like he's not a doctor, he's an idiot, but pointing to like Fauci and Woodcock,
yeah,
I've been trying more and more to go out of my way to not call them idiots, because that's far too kind. They know what they're subordinates.
Janet Woodcock has a subspecialty in rheumatology.
That's what I mean. They're not idiots. They know what they're doing.
She's an internal medicine specialist. It's a hard specialty to get through.
Yeah. They know that's what I mean, is they know what they're doing.
She was aware of the safety record of hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah. Bormann, Goering, Goebbels, Otto Skorzeny. They weren't stupid. They knew exactly what they were doing. IG Farben knew what Auschwitz was. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt of saying they're stupid. They knew what they were doing.
I really didn't believe it until Rick Bright's whistleblower complaint came out. Because, Rick would come over to the office I was in, and we saw eye to eye on a lot of things. We still see eye to eye on a lot of things. This new Merck, this Molnupiravir. I don't know why they can't make a nice name for an antiviral, but it's always a tongue twister. But we haven't talked about it. I haven't talked to him, but we both agree that this caused cancer in tissue culture studies, mutations, and you want to give it as a COVID treatment, outpatient? Oh, You need a lot of animal study. Certainly, pregnant women can't take it. That's just from the get-go. They're seeing 50% improved mortality in their clinical studies, phase 1 and 2, I guess. That is the bare minimum before you consider anything in a clinical trial. You really need above 50%. And anyway, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. It's tragic. And there needs to be accountability. Who allowed the governor of New York, because he's too stupid to have had his public health people identify suitable buildings as alternate care sites and put cots in? You saw the Javits Center in New York. That's an alternate care site. It's nothing great, but you know, ECG monitors are handheld now. Yeah. Pulse oximeters, you can buy them at CVS. It's not fancy technology. The staffing for these things had all been worked out. We knew that for every 150 patients with a respiratory virus, not the ones that are on ventilators in ICU, but the early ones that are short of breath and this and that, we knew how much oxygen they needed. We knew how many nurses we needed. I don't know if they call them nursing assistants or what they call them now. We knew how many they needed and how many doctors to watch over. It was never done. The setting these sites up so they were supported by parent hospitals, because you got to bring meals in. Yeah. You got to do this, you got to do that, which is why the high schools are ideal. They have bathrooms, they have a cafeteria, they have dining areas. All you have to do is bring in the cooks and the food and the metal trays, and here's your meal. Bring it to the bedside. It's not difficult to do. Nobody did anything there. And you need to remember, in March, all we had to go on for modeling was the inaccurate Ferguson study, which is showing 2 million dead Americans within a few weeks. So I don't want to hear that nobody was working or aware of the difficulties that were coming from the pandemic. Nor do I want to hear that it all stopped when there was a problem with the elections. It all stopped because Democrats shut down hydroxychloroquine. People left over from the Obama administration. Fauci, Woodcock, Rick Bright. We had no drug to give them now. There is nothing. Outpatient treatment was banned by Dr. Fauci and his COVID-19 treatment group. We had a Zoom meeting with him. I was out of the picture. And another senior person was having the meeting, and they were talking the biggest load of nonsense till I lost my temper. I mean, it's just rubbish. When they had 5 papers showing that early treatment didn't work. One of those papers wasn't even peer reviewed. You're that desperate, you're going to show a non-peer reviewed paper? The rest of them were late hospital studies. Late use. They weren't early use outpatient. You are that desperate. And he brought on about 10, maybe 15 people onto that Zoom meeting to support him. Ridiculous. You don't bring those numbers on unless you have no clue what you're doing and there's safety in numbers. and you know there's safety in numbers. You know, heads need to roll here, or it'll happen again.
I do think there will be, and perhaps I'm just being idyllic and positive. Right now I'm reading a book called The Arms of Krupp, Krupp, the German
Oh, the
army.
manufacturer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from 1587 to 1968. Just
Yeah.
I mean, it's still the longest. I'm still going. It's like a 40-hour audiobook, but I'm at a point right now where they're talking about it's just after World War II, and Krupp using slave labor,
Yeah.
and this author's covering covering the trials, like the Nuremberg trials, all the interrogations afterwards. And I'm astounded that
Yeah.
in a time where that happened without social media, they were still able to years later be talking and be like, is it true that on this day these women were put inside of this cage and they were treated? And I'm always astonished when reading about the Holocaust, aside from all the just how horrible it is, but at the trials afterwards, the amount they were able to dig in and try individual people, right? Because on face value, you go, oh, 6 million dead, yeah, just hang them all. But they actually went in and found the individual things they were doing.
Yeah.
And that was no social media and no email records. I do believe, I don't know when it will happen, but I do believe one day they will go in and it will be on April 9th, 2020. Did you or did you not send this email, Anthony Fauci? On October 7th, 2021, did you or did you not? There it will
Mm-hmm.
be. If they could do it post 45
Yeah.
with Krupp, then
Yeah.
they're gonna do it now. It will
Well,
happen.
well, you know, the FDA are in serious trouble. They've had two of their senior people resign
Yeah.
over the boosters.
Yeah.
2 days ago, all the Scandinavian countries banned Moderna vaccine,
Uh-huh.
and we want to vaccinate our military with these things. Pfizer's already, they put a warning on it for myocarditis in young people. And you want to vaccinate our whole military? We've lost F-22 pilots that said, I'm out of here. Bye.
Isn't that interesting that the most disciplined elite members of athletics, of Delta Force, of F-22s,
Yeah.
probably B-2 Spirit pilots? Isn't that interesting that
Yeah.
the very disciplined guys
But yeah.
know when to go?
For a vaccine that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't even work.
Senator Johnson was showing on the Senate floor, he was showing the graphs. It's no longer working. Vaccinated can catch it, they can give it to other vaccinated. It's not stopping transmission. British data shows 60% of the cases are in fully vaccinated people that are coming into hospital. And deaths. This antibody dependent enhancement was not well researched. We saw it in the monkeys with the when they tried to make a SARS vaccine, SARS-1. I've never seen such a mess in my life. I didn't know it was possible. And you want to blame it on the President Trump? Give me a break. He's not a doctor, and he didn't try to be one. He was given what he was told were the right people to be on the COVID-19 task force. Surgeon General is a very nice man, but too young. Dr. Ramphil is a very nice man, a very smart man, very well trained, tropical medicine, virology, just a really nice guy. You want a Tasmanian devil when you put them in these positions. You need
What
a
do you,
carnivore.
okay.
The deep state has been there for years. These liberal federal employees. Um, it's uh, it's the same throughout government. We had tried everything. Back to the book. The last good meeting I had was with Northcom at the Pentagon. And I'm trying to explain, and this was really senior. I'm trying to explain, I know you don't want the job, but there's no one else to do it. Look at Katrina and FEMA. Category 4 hurricane, the dikes fail, city floods. That had been the scenario that had been reviewed
Yeah.
6 months before the hurricane.
Yeah.
And who was the mayor of New Orleans then? He
Oh,
went to jail eventually, I think.
I don't remember.
Anyway, it all fell to pieces. Chaos until you brought the army in.
Well, and you, as you say in your book about that, but to just address what you just said, it's not even like this was a snowstorm in Los Angeles or
Yeah,
or a heat wave in the Arctic Circle. No,
yeah,
this is a hurricane in New
yeah,
Orleans.
yeah.
Like it's it's like, well, hold on, we knew what was, but yeah, and it's
But I was so proud of that army general. He came, he didn't raise his voice. He's calm. This is under control. We'll fix this. And he got her done. Amazing guy. This is the type of thing you need in moments of crisis. The military, unless it involves force protection, they don't want the job. And I understand that. I understand it. Their job is to hurt people and break things
yeah.
to defend the country. I understand that. But the National Guard's a bit different. And I think this is probably where the future may lie. What we need is we need a couple things, and I bring this out in the book. We have data mining systems that it's no secret.
Yeah,
Um,
Palantir.
Canadian developed system picked up the SARS-1 virus in China. We knew there was a virus causing trouble about a month, I think, before the WHO announced it, because it was data mining. And it saw the financial report of a Chinese company and flagged it because there was a sudden uptick in antiviral drug sales. There were alerts in 2009 with the H1N1. There was another data mining system running. And not only did this pick, it was private, East Coast, West Coast office, venture capital funded, worked magnificently. They picked up the fact there was an H1N1 influenza outbreak in this little area in Mexico that was actually where the outbreak started, because some children had died and some wives were causing a disturbance and a
Mm-hmm.
protest. And they tracked it back, and it was nearby one of the largest pig farms in Mexico, which is birds, pigs.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew it worked, but it was a private venture. There was no way to do boots on the ground verification, on site verification. We do this with nuclear weapons. You sign an international agreement, your inspectors rock up, they're allowed any time to rock up and see what's going on. If you sign on to the WHO, there should be a provision. We can have an inspection team there anytime we want,
Mm-hmm.
in any area we want, and look at what we want health related. We don't have that. And as we've seen, even a week's early warning of a pandemic potential, there's a lot you can do in a week. The stupidity of what was going on with COVID-19, we could see that something was going on. We could see that it was expanding, which means it's person to person transmissible. They kept denying this, the Chinese authorities. And they were reaffirmed by the WHO. Oh no, there's no evidence it's person to person transmission. Nonsense. Your hospitals are filling up. Of course it's person to person transmission. Oh, you locked down Wuhan, nobody in or out, and it's like what, 7-something million people or more? You lock down Wuhan, but you're allowing everybody to travel internationally. Over 1 million Chinese entered and left the United States during that time. But you've locked Wuhan down. What's going on? We should have had an inspection team over there in those hospitals with free access. Or don't sign on to the WHO. There's commitments you make when you sign on to the WHO. But if your best friend is the director of the WHO, your best Chinese friend, you get to do what you want. It's a travesty. So we need an improved surveillance system. I would guess data mining based, plus traditional. We need boots on the ground capability. And that includes going into war zones where a lot of these emerging infectious diseases appear.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, 90% of our conflicts have been in these same geographical areas, threatened biodiversity areas. So we need troops, special troops that are trained in epidemiology. We had this in Vietnam when it kicked off. We had a field epidemiological survey team. It was a special forces unit that would go into an area, see what nasties are there, and sometimes actually intervene and stop it. There were some plague outbreaks and they did very well with. So that's one thing. The second is a fusion center, but a proper fusion center. And we tried to address this in the book. See what the rumors are with another data mining system and what conspiracy theories and wacko things are going on, and then put out honest information. If you don't know, tell people you don't know. You've got to be honest with the population. You don't promise them things that you can't deliver.
It's irreversible damage when it's like growing up as a kid, right? And they say it's like cigarettes will give you cancer. And it's like, all right, drinking will make you sick, and you drink and you throw up, and you're like, all right. And then they're like, weed will make you see the devil, and then you smoke weed. You're like, I just ate some brownies and went to sleep. Well, now you don't trust them. So when they say meth is bad, there are kids that are like, well, they lied about that. So during a pandemic, when they say hydroxychloroquine doesn't work, and then you've got doctors going, hydroxychloroquine works, they've irreversibly lost all credibility. And now it doesn't matter if they tell the truth, because now you're looking at them going, no, I don't believe it.
Well, my nightmare found out when I found out there was no Santa Claus.
Well, some of us went through. My dad told me and my brothers that he shot the Easter Bunny. So, you yeah, said 12 gauge. They shot it dead.
Trauma for life.
Hey, but you learn early that, you're like, all right. But it's, yeah, you were saying the fusion centers as well as in the entire,
Yeah,
like,
these fusion centers, but it's all in one area. Everything, media, data mining, and your response. We show the illustration of, I call it a pandemic train, a disaster train.
they're so cool. I,
But
I, I
everything,
love trains. So this was right up my alley.
all our big cities were founded on the railroads.
Yeah.
Even Highland Park has railroad tracks still there in Detroit. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's functional or not, but it could be made functional.
Well, yeah, they're doing it
So
50 years before the Civil War.
everything prepackaged. You can make trains as long as you want. You can put operating rooms on them, clinics, housing for surge medical personnel. Well, you put it on these command and control, but have it all prepackaged. And when you're not using it, rehearse it.
Yeah.
Go into these poor areas and put on clinics. Take the cataracts out of the old people.
Yeah.
Do the this, do the that, do the screenings,
Do flu shots, just whatever.
whatever. But the people that are going to be on the train in a real crisis are doing their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
You see what
it's,
I'm saying?
well, it's again,
So
it's like the cog con drills. It's like you gotta always be right. Eisenhower would sometimes just pick up the phone and go Opal 3 just to see
yeah,
how long it would take for a helicopter to get there. Right.
yeah.
He had the directors, he had Edgar Hoover, I think he had Dulles, Angleton, he had all the heads of they all went to Mount Weather. And it was like, how long does it take? What happens? Traffic jams, blah blah. But you keep it, don't let the dust gather on it because it won't work.
The the thing I like to point out and the effectiveness for this. Look in the 60s at the probably the outside of the Battle of Britain. This was the best fusion center ever created. It was our satellite tracking,
Mm-hmm.
our BMUs and dew line radar stations looking for bombers coming over the North Pole. And the system was designed with a verification as part of it and an action arm. And it was all exercised together. Radars picked this up, verification by other means,
Scramble fighter
emergency
jets. Yeah.
war order, right down to the guys practicing turning the key to launch the missiles
Yeah.
or flushing the bombers.
Yeah.
It was all exercised and treated as one thing, from warning to action.
Yeah.
That is a fusion center.
Yeah, LeMay's Strategic Air Command. He had it.
The whole thing.
He went to every base in the U.S. and buttoned it up.
I'm telling you, we need Admiral Rickover. We need Curtis LeMay back.
If I've always talked about Curtis LeMay on this podcast, we do.
I mean, he killed a lot of people. He bombed them back to the Stone Age.
Well, he was scared that if we lost World War II, he goes, "Well, I'm going to be hung for war crimes."
We would have been,
Yeah,
but we weren't going to lose World War II.
yeah. Well, do you know that General Leslie Groves, in charge of the Manhattan Project,
Yeah.
actually said they were concerned because they wanted to use the A bomb on an untouched city so they could actually get
Oh,
feedback from it.
we intentionally left the fire bombings in Nagasaki and
Yeah.
Hiroshima to drop the bomb.
Well, they were concerned because they're like LeMay is they go look, the number of untouched cities is dropping every day because LeMay, like a madman, he was in the front plane, cigar chomping.
When and nobody messed with us for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been in a war. It's the worst thing you can imagine. Um, it's something that should be avoided at all costs. But if you're going to do it, then do it right. You go all out.
The LeMay quote about force. If we're going to do it, use too much of it.
Yeah.
You use it on people that have nothing to do with the war, and do it with an overpowering manner, because you will ultimately save lives.
Yeah.
If you're gonna open the gates of hell, use some WD-40 and open it. You don't creak it open. If we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
we're going to, yeah, we're gonna. But with strategic, I was thinking about that earlier. What you're saying about the fusion
But,
centers and
well,
practicing.
this is the thing. Listen, and this is the equitable part to pandemic defense. We've seen the trillions of dollars it can cost. We have approximate budgets for how much. I haven't been idle. I can't balance my own checkbook, but I'm pretty good at calculating what this would cost and what that would cost. Or I phone somebody that knows what it'll cost. You need an Admiral Rickover to ruthless price control so the contractors don't overfeed. But we can put in a superior system, integrated, ready for, because the real one will come.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not, I probably will live to see it. The big one with 30%, 40% death rate. It will come eventually. Mother Nature's not happy with us. No other large mammal has ever achieved our population densities.
Yeah.
So really, we're an experiment. The human race is a biological experiment. And when Mother Nature has enough, we need to use our brains and treat the threat of pandemics with the same respect and preparations we use for nuclear war.
Well, on that note, what I wanted to point out was, when LeMay first got to Europe, he said that at the current rate that we are losing bombers and the current rate at which we are building them, we said we would be without an air force in 30 days. And he said he will, beginning of Richard Rhodes's book, Dark Sun, about the hydrogen bomb, LeMay talks about that. He goes, I will never forget that feeling of we were about to be finished. And so, he goes on, takes on Strategic Air Command, comes back, sets up everything. We have the radar systems, we have the DEW line, we have those.
Amazing.
But what that came from was a man who went into World War II, saw how fucked we were, and then also saw, the power of a nuclear warhead and how war changed forever. He had plans that he called killing a nation. You almost need the fear of God put into you, and perhaps that's what this is this pandemic was our collective LeMay in Europe. And now we're going to have something where it's like, hey, we can't just have some masks stockpiled in a warehouse somewhere. Like, you need a team, like you talked about, those planes, like the biolab planes that could go pick people up and seamlessly put them into BS. I think that's maybe, but I imagine that's what we're going to see, or some like post 9/11 NORAD updates. You might almost need these events to kick you in the ass.
I can't think of any bigger kick we could have had.
Well, that's what I mean. It's Pearl Harbor. Yeah, you go, all right, time to wake up.
It really is. And we've got good people in this country. Brigadier General, well, I think she ended up Major General, Donna Barbish, recognized this back in the mid 90s that this was a huge problem. And she was really involved in the BWIRP.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody involved, or most of the people involved, realized that this is great because it's got handoffs to emerging infectious disease. And it did when you got some people actually working in that field. CDC needs massive reorganization. FDA needs to go back to its old ways, where the FDA does the drug testing, not the drug company itself. Okay. You know, Pfizer was fined, I think it's over $3 billion over the last 10 years for
2009,
all
3.2.
sorts of nonsense going on.
Yeah.
And now they're put in charge for this new Pfizer COVID vaccine is just the old one with a new product insert. It's the same thing. It's against a extinct virus.
Comirnaty.
Yeah, and we're going to put Pfizer in charge of collecting adverse events because the FDA has said, well, we can't do it. We're incapable. They state that in their authorization letter. I got an article coming out on that.
We'll
Well, in fact, I think it's on the AND website. Sam Faddis, I think he's put it on there.
we'll put IG Farben in charge of Nuremberg.
This was our last warning, I think. And I don't see anything happening. Um,
You know,
Suggestions of a new pandemic plan, I can't bear to. I leafed through it. The new Biden plan, I can't bear to read it.
I mean, I think your train plan is probably the most brilliant. It's using the oldest, most established networks. They can, they can be in. I mean, what? There are trains in Australia that are like 6, 7 kilometers long. You can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. And we have histories of using them in World War One, like
Or
hospital
you can
trains.
join two or three hospital trains.
Uh-huh.
You can join two or three together. But the key is to get in early to these disadvantaged neighborhoods. I'm not worried about the wealthy areas. You've got to get it into
Because that's where it spreads, is the disadvantaged areas.
this, and they've got higher comorbidities. They've got larger families,
Higher
um,
population densities.
higher population densities. May not understand the need for like public health things like social distancing or something, but more likely to use public transport.
Sure.
You know, I mean, there's areas where they're food deserts.
Mm-hmm.
The supermarket is miles and miles away. You know, you're forced to use public transport to do your shopping and bring it back. This is critical. And you know what? It's always been critical. These neighborhoods are where if you got any vaccine that's effective and safe, these are the communities that should get it first. You've really got to make an intense effort here. So, and I mean, we saw it in COVID-19. These poor areas got hammered. Well, they always get hammered. It this has to be part of the national plan, which means because I'm not going to rock up in a moon suit and everyone's going to trust me.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, you want
Yeah.
to stick that in my arm? Oh no.
Yeah.
You've got to work with community leaders and make them part of it. Make them part of the response. But we're what? Over 50,000 public health care workers short. Our university programs and masters in public health, they don't really teach anyone how to manage a pandemic. I don't know what they teach. You study other countries' healthcare systems and chronic disease and this type of thing. Come on. We really need a public health revolution. And this has been going on. Lori Garrett, have you read any of her books?
Mm-mm.
Oh
No.
my gosh. The Coming Plague and Betrayal of Trust. They're big, thick things, but she takes you right through the concept of emerging infectious disease and right through what's happened to our public health systems. And if you really want to be frank, the only reason we can live together in the large groups that we now live in are because of public health. When it takes me 2 hours to drive through Atlanta the other day going to Tennessee and 2 hours to drive back, at different times. Everybody should be asleep. It doesn't matter. It's 24/7. Public health allows it. It's time to return to the old way of doing things. And we've got new technology. We can do better than we did in the past. But if there's no will, and I mean, we're bankrupt now. Where are we going to get the money for revamping public health? Gee, it'd be nice to have some of that stimulus thing or this infrastructure. Isn't public health an infrastructure? If the bridge is down, I can swim across the river to get to where I'm going. If all the gas stations don't work because everyone's dead and there's no one to pump gas and deliver it, it's a bit of a different question.
Yeah.
We need to seriously treat this in the way it should be. Make sense?
It it almost feels like that part of Raven Rock where Eisenhower started to realize there's going to be no civil defense. Like it's largely a mental, it's an opiate for the masses. The idea that we're going to go to these local things and
Yeah.
we each get this many calories a day, and
Yeah.
the reality, it's very early on they realized, hey, we'll
He
have these
realized.
so people feel like they're safe. The reality is this: we're going to NORAD, we're going to Mount Weather, we're going to Raven Rock, or we're going to the Greenbrier, and that's about it. And some people are going to survive. I can't help but feel like there's probably a similar discovery going on in the continuity of government chains. Like, hey, they're
Oh,
in the big
listen,
one.
no, it was already there. That's what I did discover early on.
Oh, okay.
The National Disaster Medical System, um, VA hospitals, um, National Strategic Stockpile. A big portion of that is for continuity of government in
Yeah.
an infectious disease outbreak.
Yeah.
Make no mistake.
Oh, they'll be fine.
Vaccines, their military is head of the priority, military and government. No, I'm not talking these silly ones, the messenger RNA, but I mean a proper vaccine if you're lucky enough to have one for the condition. I'll go to the military and government and state governments. The first effective drugs will go to the same thing until they're banned. It looks like now doctors, America's frontline doctors, if I read the thing right, it looks like several hundred congressmen and senators have had ivermectin that they got for them
Yeah.
for COVID-19,
Yeah. But Pierre Corey said that.
and it's banned. It's not FDA approved.
I mean, that's what I mean
This
by
is this is the joke of this whole thing. People need to be held accountable.
that's what I mean is it will, we're still in the pandemic and these little leaks are coming out. Just give it time. It's gonna all, it always does. It's too big.
It is too big.
Right. You whack JFK, maybe you just gotta keep one or two people silent and then it goes away forever. A pandemic with generic drugs being suppressed and media suppressed. There are too many people involved, right? Manhattan Project, still so many people involved that, yeah, there, we got the Rosenbergs, we got Klaus Fuchs. It eventually gets out. It's too big to be kept quiet.
Yep.
It'll fall apart.
Yeah.
And as we always see when these things fall apart, it's exponential. It appears as a monolith for a long time. Think the
I'm
Nazis.
I'm afraid until we start getting accountability, there won't be the urgency to get something in place to replace this Gemorse. In Afrikaans, a gemorse.
A homorse.
A total mess up.
Okay.
A rubbish mess up.
A clusterfuck.
Yeah, basically,
In less formal terms.
in less formal terms. So,
But it, things do look dark, but I have found in my short life that I have to stay positive, not to be idyllic with my head in the sand. Like, I got to be a realist, but at the same time, I have to stay positive. Or, how do you get out of bed in the morning? I do, I do see this as being a wake up call that, like LeMay, sometimes you get your ass kicked, and that's what it takes to get going. That's what it takes
well,
to for actual change. It wasn't until
Americans love to fight.
yeah,
And we like to win.
yeah.
Um, we've been taught for 20 years to be afraid. Tape your doors shut, tape your windows shut, nerve gas, crap like that. That's not the American way.
No.
The American way is we go overseas and we beat the hell out of people that want to do that to us.
Yeah. It's Patton, right? You don't die for your country. You make the other poor bastard die for his.
Yeah. We need to fight. We need to get tough, and we need some serious people in branches of federal government that actually care for the American people. And want to do the right thing. Want to do the right thing.
But again, I feel it's not until these events happen that corrections get catalyzed.
Well, they've happened.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean is I always knew you grow up and you're like, yeah, freedom of speech is important. But now I'm 31. I've been banned for YouTube for talking about medications. And now all of a sudden I am deeply invested in, talking about freedom of speech. Sometimes you have to have these things challenged in order for you to realize how valuable they are, right? It's not until you get a flat tire that you realize how great it is to have a car. You're like, oh shit, I got to go to Walmart. It's something you don't think about, right? It's not until your phone's dead that you realize, oh, I'm naked. I can't contact the world, right? It's so that's what I think is the silver lining is all throughout history. The biggest, right? Necessity is the mother for invention. But who was it? Dr. Vince Houghton said, and desperation is the drunk uncle. He calls you at 3 a.m. and goes, I just need $5,000. I've got a plan. Right? But that's how we get here.
Yeah. We've got a time constraint here, I believe. I think the big one's coming sooner rather than later.
You're probably right, and I know I've kept you for 2 hours, so I won't keep you much longer. But we've talked about it on our first podcast, and then you mentioned it again at the beginning of this one. Population densities, right? I mean, these diseases would stay in these little puddles of humanity, if you will, and then a flood comes, and all the puddles get joined, and but it's kind of like for millions of years, our bodies have evolved to hang on to every calorie because you're on the plains in Africa and you don't know when you're going to get the next elk. And then all of a sudden, seemingly overnight, a century is a blink of an eye in terms of humanity, is you have McDonald's and you can have Uber Eats drop off a 10,000 calorie pizza at your house. But we still have all the old instinctual food tastes good, fat tastes better. You want carbs, eat more, sleep more. Yes. But we have this old technology, our human bodies. So we're at this weird thing where all of a sudden I can go eat 12 slices of pizza and then I want it again tomorrow because my body still thinks that I'm on the Serengeti. It doesn't know I'm in 2021 America.
Yeah.
It almost feels like we're at this same thing now where we're at this, the world is interconnected and you can, like you said, you can be at a wet market and 12 hours later, you can be walking through like, the pristine fluorescent lit lobby of JFK or Newark, and you can go downtown, and then you can catch a flight to
I
LAX.
wouldn't. I wouldn't give JFK that much
Yeah, well,
compliment.
all right, whatever. Hartsfield Jackson. I like Hartsfield Jackson. That's a little bit nicer, right? Okay, or you're at a shithole like Newark or something. I don't know, right? Whatever it is, you could catch an A380 over to Abu Dhabi.
That is, I love that plane.
I've never been on one.
It it it's
It's
like
like,
it used to be,
what do you mean?
like
Oh, air.
before you were born.
Oh, back when
We
it
all,
was
you,
a.
as little kids, we had to put a suit on if we were going to fly.
Oh, it was an elegant
Um,
thing. Oh yeah,
you didn't want it to end.
yeah. That's on a side note. That's what I've nothing to do with pandemic planning. Man, I've never been on the A3. I've never been on a 747. I want to go on an A380 so badly. I just want to.
Abu Dhabi's a very clean city. I mean, there's not a scrap of paper out of place. I've been over there a number of times training their doctors
Well, yeah, they'll probably.
and some of their healthcare people. And you can go out at 3 at night. Nobody's going to bother you. You want to walk around the block, walk around the block. Food is great. I like the food over there. I really do.
They're
And they're nice people.
yeah,
They are.
yeah. It's but the fact that all of human history, it used to be you didn't travel to Abu Dhabi, you'd maybe migrate. If you were like a wealthy guy, you might take a 6 month long boat trip to Abu Dhabi and then come
Or
back. But
camel from Kazakhstan or
that's what
something.
that's what I mean. And you have all this time. Whereas now I could just I could take whatever's in my bank account and buy a ticket to Sydney
Yeah.
and I could go there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's well now all of a sudden whatever's brewing here in Maryland is in Sydney or is
Yeah.
in Tokyo.
This
And it
this was very interesting to watch, Tommy, now that you bring this up. If you look at the intervals between pandemic waves in 1918 and now, in spite of the increased travel, you're still seeing kind of the same interval.
that's insane.
Yeah, there's a rule here somewhere that we're missing.
Yeah, there's some constant that we haven't hammered
There's a
down.
there's something that we're missing here. And the Israelis noticed it first and wrote a paper on it. I had to have it translated from Hebrew. But I've never forgot it. This was over a year ago. There's something peculiar that we're missing here. Some law.
Yeah.
And hmm, you would
Because
think with air travel compared to steamships,
you know what it might be? If I could take a stab at it, because you're right, populations are going up exponentially. Your ability to travel, right, just in the last
yeah,
century, which is nothing in
yeah,
the blink of what it might be, is it might act. Could it be the parallel genetic recombinations of you're not just traveling, but now people from Abu Dhabi are marrying and having kids with people from Dallas? Could it be that there's a parallel uh,
it could be.
advance in recombinant new genomes? Is that maybe it's that?
Well, I don't know about that.
All right.
People suggested the Arctic tern. It's a very pretty little bird. It's got a black head and a white body. And that little guy does nothing but start up at the North Pole and fly to the South Pole. And then it flies from the South Pole back up to the North Pole on these routes. That's all it does. And it poops on everything along the way. And of course, influenza viruses, it's nothing to a bird unless it's really one of those pathogenic avian strains. Um, birds really don't get that sick from it. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's the male. We think it was the male, or at least the male people, that got the 1918 thing into Alaska. I don't know. Maybe it's money. We know some of these viruses can survive for an extended amount of time, even on polymer banknotes. I don't know.
It doesn't it doesn't make sense though. You're right. The air travel and the populate, but there's still the same intervals.
Between waves.
Yeah, that's I didn't know that. That's okay. Well, that kind of screws my whole argument. I was talking about like pizza and everything, and I was going to say we have this ability to travel, but we still have this old world technology of like genetic transfer. But what you said, now it's not making sense. It'd be like if we could. It'd be like if right
Well,
now you could eat
you're
pizza but not.
homesick and your fingers are all filthy because you wipe your nose all the
Yeah, you're
time.
touching your
And
face.
then you
Yeah,
pay the pizza guy and he takes it from you and then he rubs his eye.
yeah, but even that, it's there's still more and more people use just debit or credit or Venmo. It's
Still a card.
but even then it doesn't make sense. It's well, you can do it online, but even then all these things point to the intervals being less,
Yeah,
but they're not.
they're not.
Well, I'm kind of stuck
Something
on this.
wrong.
That's got my mind turning. What
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. So we caused this. We caused a lot of this ourselves by the way we responded to it. Take home points. Lockdowns are a myth. They were never part of any pandemic plan. Maybe initially, just like a brand new thing, just to try to get ahead of it, but not going on for off and on for years and destroying the economy. Most viruses don't do very well. Anthrax will decay at 1% per minute in the open air. Okay? Anthrax. Smallpox will decay about 1% per minute. These viruses don't like being outside the body. So having a birthday party or something, reasonable distance apart, daylight,
UV light,
these
yeah.
things don't these things don't like ultraviolet light. You create dimers in their
Mm-hmm.
genetic information. They don't like the oxygen in the air. They rust. They oxidize their proteins. They don't like the humidity. If it's too humid out, osmotic pressures pull the virus apart. So not everything, is a bioweapon.
Yeah.
So indoors you have problems. Outdoors you have less problems. You don't shut businesses down. It was never part of any pandemic plan. And now it just seems to be the norm. Oh, yeah, close everything down. Oh, my God. And it was promoted by the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party and the WHO. That's where it started.
And they have the best intentions for the US economy.
Well, they love us, don't they?
Why would they want us to falter in any way?
Yeah. They were behind the curve. They were in real trouble
China?
in 2019. Yeah.
Oh
With
yeah.
with
Trade
COVID.
war? Well, I was gonna say. Oh,
No,
I thought I was gonna say in general.
I'm just sticking with COVID.
Okay.
They were in serious trouble and we had everything going for us. And then what we didn't have going for us was a functional Center for Disease Control and a conflict of interest ridden NIH and big pharma operating unregulated
And just a revolving door.
and a revolving door. So it was interesting that Dr. Hahn, he screwed up everything he touched at the White House. Literally, from allowing millions of dollars worth of useless lateral flow assays for COVID antibody testing in to the pooled plasma thing to hydroxychloroquine and everything. It's interesting that he's just took a job with the venture capitalists company that funded all of the Moderna vaccine. You can't make this stuff up, man.
It's
6 months after leaving, he's chief medical advisor.
it's like what Tim Dillon said. Tim Dillon said about coincidences, and specifically now around like the revolving door of FDA, Pfizer's. He goes, a coincidence is you're born in New York and you're down in Mexico City, and someone on the same flight as you is also born in New York, and you get to talking. You go, I'm from Brooklyn. That's a coincidence. A coincidence is not when the head of the FDA leaves and ends up at the head of Pfizer, or the head of the Reuters fact checking is also on the board of directors at Pfizer. Those aren't coincidences.
No, those aren't coincidences. So, frustrating year. I personally accomplished nothing.
I built this whole podcast.
Well, that was pretty good. But you can't give up. There's a lot of work to do. And you just have to get on with it the best you can.
There's no point in giving up. Like, I have an odd take on this. I'll let you go in a couple of minutes. I've kept you for 2.5 hours. I have an odd take on death. Everyone says, like, you have to die. I look at it as you get to die. Eventually, the struggle, right? Buddha, life is suffering. Eventually, you get to lay down and you're done, and you don't have to do it anymore. So I look at it as you get to. Seeing as how we get to die, might as well fight. Like, let's give them a black eye, and maybe but the idea of like, oh, it's all done. To me, that is
no, I can't stand that.
No. To me, there's a fate worse than death. Is the tail between the legs? Well, we can't. People that are like, America's past its prime. Go fuck yourself. Like, stand up tall. Let's give it a fight, and maybe it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. We get to die. It's why I went into the podcast, and I remember thinking, there's two ways this is. Or I went into the pandemic. Sorry, because I started the podcast on December 12th, 2019.
Okay.
I went in thinking I was living at home. I was 29 years old, and I was like, I can go into this thing and just wallow in self-pity. I have no social life. I don't have nothing going for me. And now there's a pandemic. Just lay around and do nothing. I was like, or I can stay sane, and every day I can listen to. I remember thinking, if this goes on for a year, it won't go on for a year. Now we're at 2 years. But I remember thinking, if I listen to an hour a day of an audiobook, that's 365 hours, average audiobook 10 hours. I was like, I can have 36 more books in my head. And I was like, okay. And then I thought, well, what if I just do one episode a day on this podcast? I'll have something to show for it. And now we're still in the pandemic, and this is episode 589. And I've probably read 200 audiobooks in the last year. There's two ways you can go into things. You can say, oh, this is over, or you can go, let's get something out of it. And that's my logic is, got to be LeMay. You can say we're done, or you can go, all right, when this war is over, I'm going to go become the Secretary of the Air Force, and I'm going to set up Strategic Air Command, and I'm going to make sure that we're going to have Operation Chrome Dome. We're going to have missile silos. It's never going to happen again. That's how I look at it, is get to it.
Well, I've learned a lot. What I'm doing now, I'm at the local authority level. Looking at how they responded to things and still are responding to things. So I don't have the state level perspective, but top, bottom, I can work the rest out. And pandemic preparedness has got to be from the local authority up. It will not work top down. It can't. And like everything else, this fusion center needs an action arm for a surge thing and to into a disadvantaged area. If each state had a train, and you could tie this back in to the military drug system. When things start getting like a year from expiration date, change it in for fresh stuff. Keep it running in and out of the military medicine, the VA hospital system. There's ways to do this economically once you get it up and running. And then maybe once or twice a year, cycle for whatever state it's in, cycle it through your poorest areas and just run clinics.
Yeah.
Do easy surgeries. Just look after the people for a
Do,
week or so.
do the train routes and just do like
Yeah.
tonsillectomies.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Everybody wins. And you get pretty good at working out of a train.
Yeah. I mean, it's like military auctions where you can buy like an old Humvee from Desert Storm for like $1,000. Should keep the train. Do it once a year. I mean, we already have, right? Isn't September? Isn't that like National Preparation Month?
The locomotives are the most expensive part.
Yeah.
You have to have a special locomotive.
Sure, but you don't need tracks. Those have been there. Those have been there for a century and a half.
Yeah.
The hard part's taken care of.
Yeah.
You know?
We've got these forward command pop-up operational bases that like can be set up in like 4 hours. Everything just pops up. Those are ideal for 150 bed patient treatment centers. I'm not talking the old DepMeds hospital that took a while to set up. These forward operating things, it's like 4 hours, including kitchen, latrines, everything. It all comes self-contained. Then the train's free to go off and do its train thing somewhere else.
Yeah.
It leaves that behind.
Yeah.
It's a complete neighborhood emergency health center, if nothing else, or an alternate treatment site.
And the trains literally go through the center of cities. You know, airports, you can get pretty close. This is literally through the center.
And where are some of these poorest, disadvantaged areas?
Well, I mean, what's the saying? Wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
That's where the fucking tracks are.
You're right there. You see what I mean?
Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, like I said, your whole book is prophetic, but the train system to me, it's just such a glaring thing that's right in your eye, right in your face, and you're like, oh, it's all right here. Like it can be done.
Yeah. No new technology. The Australians make a stretcher ICU. The one that was developed for the Marine Corps because they'd outraced all their in the first Gulf War, they'd outraced all their medical support. But the LSTAT stretcher, I think last I looked it was 40K for an Australian version of that, and I'm sure you could get some people to make it cheaper than that. But having the ICU as part of the stretcher, everything you need: ventilator,
Mm-hmm.
monitors, infusion pumps, and a little bit of oxygen. So there's got to be a will to do it, and there has to be a bit of fear driven it, I guess. I don't know. You would think. People are so numb now, they don't know what to think. They really don't. We're getting exhausted. So mm. we'll see what happens. That's all we can do.
Maybe you just need like a medical A380, and you go if there's some weird that would be you're on the ground. I don't know, some like medical Delta Force and hazmats. Maybe you just go in and take everyone out that's sick. Go real brutal. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
My pandemic plan was to be on the back of a yacht, drinking a martini at sundown, not taking Ubers every day into work.
Yeah,
Through rioters and tormentors.
I've decided my preparation. If I can make if I can make some money on this podcast, my plan is to go live in the woods, and have everything I need. Maybe put up some concertina wire, and I'll have myself figured out. I'm not gonna worry about what happens to everyone else. I'm having a guy on Friday who builds private bunkers for people.
Like is that the steel ones? They're all welded.
Yeah, it's called Atlas Shelters. Yeah,
I've seen.
Yeah, I'm having that guy on Friday.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's I'm just laying the groundwork. I'm like, I need to get my contacts now. Put in a whole bunker system up in New Hampshire somewhere. I'm gonna build my own NORAD. Dr. Hatfill, you can come stay with me. I'll need a medical professional, and I'll contract the Delta Force guys I interview.
I have a place in West Texas.
Okay, good.
It's the middle of nowhere.
I honestly, I'm getting to a point where I'm like, yeah, the best plan is plan for yourself because no one's coming for you. That's yeah. I'll have my food and water because no one's knocking on my door going, Tommy Carrigan, here's your MRE. No, there'll be riots and the military will be in a bunker underground. It's all the rest is going to shit. So
World War Z.
Yeah, exactly. It's West Texas, northern New Hampshire. We'll have our network set up. But Dr. Hatfill, I have kept you for 2 hours and 31 minutes, which is about no, I don't. All right. Well,
I reserve the afternoon.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, man. Thank you for your time. Your book is insane. 3 Seconds Till Midnight. It's on Kindle. I'll put it in the description. It's not on Audible yet, so I'm gonna have to dox points from you for that. But
Pete Navarro's book is coming out. I'm writing a second one, but he wanted to go first. It's coming out on 3rd of November called, I think it's Trump Time, Diary of the Plague Years. And Peter explains a lot of what happened. I haven't read it. I don't know what's in it. But he's usually very thorough in anything that he does.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
You think you could get him on here?
Yeah, we could. Wait till the book comes out.
Yeah, well, of course. I always, I
I
can't spoil it, but I might be having someone on later this month, just wrapping up a book about the vaccines.
Cool.
And also, I want to ask you, by any chance, do you have any contact with Dr. Redfield? I've tried to get him on here so many times, and I can never get a response. All right, well, it's worth a try.
No, Dr. Redfield, I'm sure feels the same as we all do.
Sure.
Nobody was ever able to accomplish anything.
Yeah.
There were other forces involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really felt, my heart was with Dr. Redfield.
Yeah. It's like
a seriously good man.
I mean, it must feel similar to like trying to find peace in World War I and talking to Krupp. And not only was Krupp building the artillery, they were also buying up all the barbed wire companies. And it was like,
well, we were supplying them with steel during World War I.
Yeah.
You knew that.
Yeah. And it's like, well, are they really trying to stop this thing? That's kind of what I'm getting the vibe of. Is like
look, this aged me a lot. It aged everyone involved.
Yeah.
The sheer frustration of it. You can't even get a PCR test right. Why are you insisting on PCR tests? Doctors have been diagnosed. If you come to see me with a cold, do you think I'm going to take a nasal swab and go and see what cold virus it is? There's like 120 of them.
Oh,
No,
give me a Z
I'm going to
pack.
check your chest. Going to make sure your lungs are clear. There's no secondary bacterial pneumonia. Send you, go get some cold medicine. Stay away from everybody. Wash your hands. Stay in your room for a couple days. It'll be over.
Sleep. Yeah.
Phone me if you start coughing or running a serious temperature or something. Worry about a secondary bacterial pneumonia. I'm not going to wait for the test to come back to give you anything.
Yeah.
This is the stupidity of this whole thing. Absolute stupidity. Nobody is this stupid. Nobody. There was, they wanted those vaccines.
They were malicious actors. They're
They're
not.
malicious. I think that's probably the best way to.
They're not the Three Stooges of. Well, we didn't know.
No.
They knew what they're doing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's billions. It's right. It's 3 straight record-breaking quarters for Pfizer's Moderna doubling in market cap.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I refused to believe it until midsummer. Nothing else. When Rick Bright's whistleblower, because we didn't figure out, suddenly Rick's fired, whistleblower complaint. It just didn't make sense.
Well, right. It's like the first concentration camp to be liberated was Ordruff. And it's bad enough that you find this fenced-in area with all these emaciated Jews.
Yeah.
Imagine if I'm sure one of those soldiers was thinking, "Hey, do you think there are other camps?" I guarantee everyone there was probably thinking there can't be others because this means it was intentional. And then you find out that IG Farben helped construct them.
You don't want to believe it.
You don't, and it's not until you start to realize the full scope of it. And not only that they had records of everyone, IBM, IG Farben, Bayer, Krupp, and you start looking at it and you go, yeah, it's the human mind. It goes, it can't be because you're a good person. And you go, this couldn't possibly be it. But you start to see the devil in all of this and you go, oh, holy shit, there are some evil forces. There are some demonic people.
There's no other explanation.
And that's what it's going to, and I think most of the population is still in the mindset of they understand the concept of it, that big pharma is suppressing alternative treatments and that they want a vaccine sales. I think we're still a little bit away from people starting to go, it was plausible, but now I'm thinking that it's what happened.
Well, now when they're pushing for outpatient treatments using their new drugs, it's $700 a dose.
Yeah.
The treatment. I think that's when everything will hit the fan.
I think it will be more, and it'll be that, and then in addition to that, it will be people like Joe Rogan with his own audience, who's independent from YouTube, and he comes out and goes, "I'm not vaccinated. I got ivermectin. I was fine in 3 days."
Yeah,
it will eventually seep through. It takes a while, but the truth is too big, and it will be a turning point. It's not going to be this. It'll be like a nuclear reaction. All of a sudden it hits a critical mass. You're going to have enough people that are going, I got fired from my job for this. And did you know that they were blocking It's going to come out. It's going to be some whistleblowers, and then it will start to pick up momentum. And then all of a sudden, because right now there's a lot of people that are scared. They don't want to be the minority speaking out because they've got a job, they've got kids, and they're like, I can't,
I know.
It's going to snowball. And then eventually the minority will be the people defending big pharma.
There comes a time when there's no choice but to stand up.
Well, yeah, it's if you have kids in a world that you never stood up in, you're going to leave them a world where they can't stand up.
Yeah.
Or as my Marine buddy says, for a long time, people always said, I can't do this. I have a wife and kids. And now it's turning into, I have to do this. I have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
It's,
we'll see what happens. It'll be, there has to be accountability this time.
There will be. And ultimately, you get to die. That's how I look at it. Eventually, you get to check out, find peace and all of that. But Dr. Hatfill.
Yep.
I was going to say, I will let you go. I've kept you for 2 hours and 38 minutes. fantastic. You're a brilliant individual. Everyone, please go get the book, 3 Seconds Until Midnight. And you nailed it. I mean, crystal ball, you nailed an eerie amount. You nailed it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing good about saying I told you so. But I mean,
yeah,
you cracked it out of the park. It's a terrible thing to be right about, but you got it.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, always good to talk to you, man.
You too, sir. And if you ever have an idea of what lottery numbers I should get, tell me, because you picked this right. So fuck it. Let's take a crack at Powerball.
We'll see you later, buddy.
All right. Dr. Hatfill, thank you so much, sir. God bless. And until next time,
You
take
too.
care.
Have a good